This is a brief introduction to Patrick Lecture 30, which is titled Pride, Self-Will, and Fear. It is one of the 8 to 12 lectures that examine personality qualities, defenses, in triads, primarily based on the division expressed in Reason, Will, and Emotion, Patrick Lecture 43. So in Patrick Lecture 43, it talks about 3 types. We're not types, but it is useful to see a trend where reason types trend to be a certain way. And because we're not typed, we're intermixed. We are reason, emotion, etc. So pride, self-will, and fear can be used alone as a tool. During January and February, I used this tool as tool of the month to help with other lectures. And in April, I decided to focus on this lecture specifically so I could expand on what qualities of pride, what qualities of self-will, and what aspects and what fear looks like, how it disguises itself as pride and self-will. You could divide the Patrick lectures into many different categories. I'm going to name 3. One is practical tools and techniques that anyone can use, no matter what their philosophy or spiritual discipline or religion. Secondly, a deeper psychological understanding that includes some spiritual elements. Doesn't necessarily challenge your current belief system, but it may help integrate some understanding of spiritual principles with psychological elements. And the third I'd call cosmological, and they do ask that you explore the pathwork belief system or cosmology, how the lectures explain what reality is in a very, very large context. However, pride, self-will, and fear belongs to the first category, practical tools and techniques. So when we're talking about practical tools, it sounds sometimes like we're focusing on the negative, but that would be natural. If you go in to clean a room, you don't bother with the clean stuff, you focus on the dirty stuff. So if you're using a tool or a technique, you're using it in an area in your life, in an aspect, because you have a sense that something's not working well. So you want the tool to help you improve it. So we do focus on what doesn't go well, and there's an assumption that there are many aspects of your life that go well. In fact, we depend on that because we're suggesting that you can identify pride, self-will, and fear even in the healthy parts of your life. They can be healthy. There's a good reason to be afraid of things. And there is good pride. There's a sense of pride that is justified, useful, and appropriate. And self-will is, to some extent, how you get through the day. When we study about them in distortion, we're looking at how they've gotten out of hand, how they insist that it's necessary to be afraid, or that if your self-will isn't expressed, you'll die, or you'll be destroyed or annihilated. Now, it doesn't sound like that, but if you examine more deeply, there's an underlying sense that you must. And pride is about a sense of I must be better than others. Not I am in certain areas and not in others, but I must be. So it's this forcing current, this have to, that indicates an area that could be worked on. When using a tool and technique, again, I like triads. So there's 3 elements of working with it. The first one is to notice. So on my websites, I give great emphasis to Patrick Lecture 127, which talks about the spiritual evolution in 4 stages. And that those 4 stages are not knowing. It's a stage. We don't know that we're there, but it's a stage. And there's awareness, and understanding, and eventually a knowing. Knowing meaning, I got it. It's an aha. When you're looking at things, the first thing you need to do is notice them. So I emphasize again daily review, which is Pathwork Lecture 28. And the reason I emphasize it so strongly is you need to know what's there. And sometimes the small details can get away from you and you don't see the larger pattern. So noticing the details is the first step. Second step is beginning to understand their origins. Okay, I looked at my life and I looked at it daily for 2-3 weeks. And wow, I didn't realize there was that much fear. The next step is to go deeper. Where did the fear come from? What's the fear about? It's a longer process, but at least you know where to look. The third level is learning new thinking patterns. I want to emphasize that that is different from learning new habits, which can be unconscious, or learning affirmations, which can be a superficial application. There's a Saturday Night Live that I can't remember the details, but Saturday Night Live skit with Al Franken where I am a good boy and I am worth loving. That's great if it's true. But if you secretly fear it's not true, it's like putting a Band-Aid on an infected wound. So affirmations are wonderful supports for a new thinking pattern. And it's important to be generous with that. Not I already am, but I can be. And that acknowledges I'm not there yet, but I'm headed that way. I'm going to support myself in going there, and I'm going to forgive myself for stumbling and making mistakes. So if we look at pride, self-will, and fear, first we notice what seems more evident in our lives. We notice what to work on. Secondly, we look more deeply. Is this a dynamic that I got from my mother, my father, my family? Why do I emphasize this? What in my history made this a defense that I go to more easily than others? And thirdly, if I notice it and I have some understanding of it, how can I diminish going into defense, using it as an excuse? How can I think about it and perhaps take a different approach? So that's the three-pronged approach to using pathwork tools and techniques. Thanks for listening.